Welcome back to the show T3 Podcast with your host Larry Lou. And I want to thank you for tuning in. I have an important, I feel like, topic today that a lot of us don't know anything about really. We go through it every single day, numerous times of the day, but we don't really know exactly what it is. So when I left you last time, we talked about acceptance as being a virtue, of a very valuable skill to have while you're living this life, because things are always going on and they don't necessarily go our way. So acceptance is a powerful skill. And we talked about how acceptance can make you see things for what they really are, and how acceptance can make you face certain truths, about numerous things, So acceptance is very powerful, and I want you to kind of remember, if you watched that podcast, kind of tune in to what I said, because it can be very useful for what it is I'm about to explain to you today. And so with that acceptance and coming into the reality of who we really are and what's really going on with us, one thing that we have to learn to accept is that we are in a constant dialectical tension. Now, dialectical is basically saying that two things, though they may be opposite, can be true, but they can't be true simultaneously. So they can't be true at the same time. One has to give way. And that dialectical tension is what I want to focus on, because we go through it every single day, numerous times of the day. I just don't think we really realize it. Those of you who are familiar with DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, should know this. I'm certified in teaching the skills, so a lot of what I say goes back to DBT. Very, very useful in regulating emotions, which this is what we focus a lot on this show, is how to regulate emotions. So this dialectical tension is all around us. So for example, and it will make sense as I explain it and give you more examples, we're looking for joy and we're looking for prosperity, and we are expecting that the choices and the decisions that we make will bring us that joy or that happiness. We're expecting that our decisions will give us the desires of our heart. I mean, we're not making choices and decisions to bring us pain. We're not making choices and decisions to bring us hurt, to do harm to us. That goes against our natural tendency, right? Our natural inclination. So when we make these choices and make these decisions, we are trying to give ourselves the best possible outcome. The only problem with that, and this is where the dialectical tension comes in, is even when you were trying to be happy, you're not going to be 100% happy. For example, there are conditions on being happy, and a lot of times those conditions conflict with each other. For instance, your job. You may love your job, but you may hate the pay. You may love the pay, but hate your job. You may like a person because of their personality, but you might not be attracted to their looks, so to speak. Or you may be very attracted to their looks, but turned off by their personality. So again, when we talk about being happy, it is conflicting, because we always have this duality about ourselves that will always bring us back to something else or to the other. It will always be in the foresight. So when you think about it like that, that dialectical tension is always with us, and it is running us ragged because it makes us tired. It gives us a type of a hopeless feeling sometimes. You know, that whole saying of no matter what I do, I just can't get ahead, or, you know, it's always something. Yeah, it is. It is. It's always something. And I don't know if we ever truly get used to that. We should. The reality is, if we accepted that, there is always something. Got my bills paid, the kids acting right, the family good, the job seems to be good, and the boss seems to be acting right, and we got food in the refrigerator going on the trip, and my health is good, and the engine in the car go out. You know, it's just always something. It's always something, and that's a hard thing for us to accept. But there it is that other part, that other side is always lurking. Some of us live in fear of that all our lives, waiting for that other shoe to drop. But it is always there. It's because it's always a possibility. But those things, you know, personality and looks, you can get somebody that looks nice and have a good personality. There are those out there, right? You can probably have a job where you love your job and make good money. That can happen. So it's not like an impossibility. But when we talk about values, and this is where the dialectical tension really comes into play, is values. Rarely, if ever, does a decision or choice simultaneously attain two incompatible concepts that a person values. And that just goes back to what I said before. Values are incompatible with one another. So let's go a little bit deeper. When they are incompatible with one another, one has to give way. You will have to go either with door number one or door number two. But you can't have both. And so naturally, when, let's say, we talk about ourselves, and I think you all can agree with me on this. Naturally, we value ourselves and our opinion, right? That's a value of ours. But we're not always correct. So we need to value other people's perspective and other people's opinions about things. However, with that comes the dialectical tension. How do you hold your values and stand firm on what you believe in? Okay. While at the same time valuing someone else's values that's different, or that is different than yours. How do you do that? You can. But it's just natural. 9 times out of 10, if not 10 out of 10. If we can't hold conflicting truths, let's say truths, so to speak, but they conflict. If we can't hold those conflicting truths, those concepts simultaneously. You have to decide on one, and usually we side with ourselves. We usually side with ourselves. That's what we're usually going to do. If it comes down to a decision, or if we're in conflict with our significant other, with kids, with the boss, with whoever, we usually side with ourselves. We think we right. But we're not always correct. We're not always correct. And if you say that you are, then what you're saying is that you're perfect. But again, naturally, that tension, when it comes into play, we choose ourselves. We side with ourselves, and that can be dangerous. Now, I know a lot of people don't consciously believe that they're always right. And some people I know are willing to listen to what others have to say. It's not just people, everybody's out here just not listening, because some of us do. But when we feel threatened, not like somebody's going to do bodily harm, but when our egos are threatened, that really is going to tell the story. What are you going to do? Because 9 times or 10 times out of 10, when we feel threatened and our egos are under siege, when our egos are under siege, just naturally out of fear, we gonna side with us. I don't know what this person talking about. I don't know if they right or wrong, but I'm just gonna go with what I think. And that's just very dangerous, because if you're a person who just maybe goes off of emotion, thinking you right all the time, your emotions are going to lead you astray. And it's going to lead you down a path that by the time you figure it out, it might be too late. So you have to be able to hold that dialectical tension. And that is very hard for people to do, to hold two separate, different values. It's very stressful. That's why you just see some people just say, forget it. I don't care. We can't hold it. It's too stressful. It's too much tension on us. It's like a weight. Each choice, no matter if you listening to somebody or not, each choice creates a dilemma. That's why we feel like we can't win. No matter what we choose, we feel like we're going to lose something, and we would rather not lose anything in the fire. I'm going to talk more and more about this in the coming weeks, because this is something that is very crucial to growth and to healing. But as for today, I want to tell you about a movie that I watch, that I think if you hear it, and especially if you watch it, you will understand perfectly of what dialectical tension is. And before I talk about this movie, there's a quote I read, and it said that the struggle between for and against is the mind's worst disease. Not knowing which way I should go. Should I be for this or should I be against this? Because that's a constant struggle. We don't always have the answer, but we don't know if this other person has the answer. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Again, so we just usually side with ourselves, and hope for the best. The scariest thing is people who are convicted on what they feel or think is true, and they have no idea. That's the worst. Especially if you know that what somebody's saying isn't right. Maybe you've done your research or did a paper on it, or, you know, just having this conversation and, you know, somebody educated you on something. But this other person is just dead set on believing what they're gonna believe, and ain't nothing gonna change their mind. And you know that down the road it's gonna be trouble for them. I mean, look at our kids. Think they know everything. Swear up and down they got it all figured out. Stuff ain't gonna happen to them. And what happened? They end up back home. Happens all the time. Happens all the time. But that's a perfect example. They be convicted on what they think is right. They know. Oh, I'm gonna do this. Oh, I'm gonna do that. And it doesn't work out like they thought it would. Happens all day, every day. But the struggle between for and against is man's greatest disease. It's his greatest disease. The mind can't handle the tension. But let's talk about this movie. The movie was on HBO, and it was called, and it's still on there. I feel it should be. It's called Juror Number 2. Okay, Juror Number 2. Now the backstory is that there is a trial going on. And the trial is about a man who is convicted of killing his girlfriend. Okay, I think, if I remember correctly, they used to get in arguments and things would happen. I think police would be called to their house, or, they were in a bar and they were seen arguing, and somebody might have hit somebody or whatever. And so he's on trial for supposedly murdering his girlfriend. So as the trial is going on and the evidence is coming out, Juror Number 2 is kind of shook. And come to find out, Juror Number 2 is thinking back to what the witnesses are saying and the lawyers are saying. And the Juror Number 2 is remembering that there was an incident with him where he felt that he might have hit something while driving. It was raining and it was on this road. He got out the car and looked around, but it was really dark. It was late. It was raining. He didn't see anything, so he kept on going, thinking everything was okay. But as the evidence comes out, it is sounding like he's the one that killed the woman that this man is on trial for. Now, as he's going on and they deliberating and this and that, so by this time he know he's the murderer. Juror Number 2 is the murderer. So the man that's on trial is innocent. He's innocent. Juror Number 2 knows he is the murderer. So he goes to a lawyer because he wants to turn himself in. He knows that he should do the quote unquote right thing. But here's the problem. The dialectical tension. He wants to go and tell the truth. He was at the bar, but he didn't drink. But he's a recovering alcoholic. Who gonna believe him? Because as soon as prosecution or the prosecutor goes and finds all this evidence and he was in the bar and people saying, yeah, I seen him, and he's gonna say, well, I didn't drink, somebody gonna say he lying. If he wasn't drunk, how did he hit somebody on the road? Whatever the case may be. But that's an issue, a big, strong issue. Who's going to believe him? So again, remember I told you the dialectical tension is always going on, whether he should tell the truth, or whether he should lie. Well, not really lie, just kind of conceal and not say anything. Some people will call that a lie. I don't, but it's not being honest either. I will say that. So again, you have the tension. So fast forward, we know juror number 2 is the killer. They deliberate and finds this innocent man guilty of murder. And the true murderer was on the jury. But as I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, if that was me, and ask yourself, if that was you, what would you do? Because he hit this woman. And at the very least, I think he should be charged with manslaughter because it was dark, it was raining, he couldn't see. He did get out of the car, checked to see if he did hit something or if something was around, but he didn't see it, got back in the car and kept moving. But the problem, the other end of this thing, I could come and spill my guts and be honest and be truthful, but are the jury, is the judge going to listen and believe my story? Especially now that if I come out, the press is going to be all over it. Now the prosecutor probably got to poke their chest out. Maybe they running for attorney general or something. So they got to make an example. This happens all the time. So there are a lot of things to consider. If the media get involved and now it's nationally, now we got to make an example out of me. They got to make an example out of me. Am I going to sit up there and tell these people that, yeah, it's me, I didn't mean to do it, and possibly face 15 years in prison for something that I did accidentally? So let's weigh this. If I do the right thing, I lose my freedom, I go to jail, or possibly maybe they're gonna give me the death penalty because I waited so long and I was on the jury and I was trying to get away and they want to make an example out of me. And that's doing the right thing. That's tension. That's tension. I do the wrong thing though, quote unquote, the wrong thing. I maintain my freedom. I don't go to jail and I survive. Go on living my life. Not to mention my wife had just had a baby. So now I got a kid. So there's a lot at play here. So I think you can understand what it is that I'm trying to get across to you. Dialectical tension. He's right if he confesses, but he possibly is right if he doesn't, because if he does the right thing, he's going to get punished for doing the right thing. That's a lot of tension. That's a lot of tension. But again, like I said before, numerous times we go through this day in and day out, throughout the day. Things happen, things come up, and we don't know what choice or what decision to make, because either way, it brings a dilemma. Just like in this movie, juror number 2, no matter what decision is made, no matter what choice I decide to go with, it brings a dilemma. I mean, doing the right thing seems as if I'm getting punished, and that shouldn't be the case. We're taught that if we do the right thing, we will get rewarded. That's what we're taught. But you live long enough, you understand that that's not always the case. And you're going to always have some people, got to pay, got to take responsibility, and this and that and the other. And I agree with that. But I also agree that there's compassion that needs to be had sometimes. But those two conflict. Because you can have compassion for someone, and what can happen is, as you're having this compassion, you're taking away sometimes the responsibility. This is what a lot of mothers do with their kids. They want to protect them from the consequences of their actions. So now they no longer are responsible for them, and then they grow up thinking that they don't have to be. They grow up thinking that they don't have to be. That's a problem. But again, the tension of having to make a choice, and no matter what decision is made, I'm going to suffer. So what we usually do, we going to pick ourselves. Self-preservation, number 1 rule. Is it right? I'll let you decide that. Is it wrong? It's all yours. But I do ask you, just think about it and watch the movie. What would you do if you were juror number 2? You're a recovering alcoholic. You were at a bar. You ordered a drink, but you didn't take it because he was going through something, but he didn't drink it. What would you do? I think it's a great conversation to have to figure out what would people do. I know everybody I asked, unfortunately, was like, they feel sorry for my man, but they not going. They ain't telling. And I mean, I was all into that movie. So ask yourself, ask the wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever. Just ask. And watch the movie, though. It's a very good movie. But I say all that to say the dialectical tension is real. And we never really fully understand that this is what is going on with us when we have to choose certain values that are not compatible, at least not simultaneously. Not at the same time. Not at the same time. Again, the struggle between for and against is the mind's worst disease. Larry Lou, if you like what you hear and subscribe, I would appreciate it. Give it a like, comment on it. Let's have another discussion about it. Maybe somebody can bring something to the table that I didn't think about, or we're not thinking about. But it was a good movie, and I'm going to continue on this road because it's a lot going on and people are suffering. And again, this is a show where I want to try to bring healing to the soul, healing to the mind, to our emotions, to just us, period. We all need to heal because we all struggling with something. None of our parents were perfect, and their parents weren't perfect, so a lot of things been handed down, and we gotta break those chains. So I'm gonna be on this for a minute because I think it's very important. Dialectical tension. Juror number 2, go check it out. This is Larry Lou. Elevation is in order.